Good day everyone. Today I'll be presenting my grade 4 mathematics lesson on fractions. So the topic of my lesson is fractions. The aim of this lesson is to help learners understand what fractions are and be able to identify numerator and denominator, and also able to define them, the numerator and denominator, so that they can apply their knowledge to solve everyday problems involving fractions. So the lesson objectives are aligned with Bloom's taxonomy at the remembering level, where learners will define a fraction and identify its parts, namely the numerator and denominator. At the understanding level, learners will explain the meaning of fractions and represent them using diagrams or real-life objects. At the applying level, learners will compare fractions with the same denominator and solve simple fractions problems. At the analyzing level, learners will distinguish between different fractions and determine which one is greater and which one is smaller. At the evaluating level, learners will justify their answers when comparing fractions. Finally, at the creating level, learners will create their own examples and represent them using drawings or real-life situations. The lesson consists of 3 phases. The first phase, in the introduction phase, it is the purpose. So the purpose of this phase is to capture learners' attention, activate their prior knowledge, and introduce the lesson. I will begin by asking learners questions about sharing a pizza or a chocolate bar. This will help them connect fractions to everyday life. I will then introduce the lesson objectives and explain important concepts such as numerator and denominator. The second phase, it is the development phase. The purpose of this phase is to teach the new content and allow learners to practice what they have learned. I'll use teaching resources such as fraction circles, paper folding, or pictures to demonstrate fractions. Learners will participate in guided practices, group activities, and individual exercises, while I monitor their progress and provide support where necessary. Then, the final phase is conclusion phase. The purpose of this phase is to summarize the lesson and assess learners' understanding to reinforce the key concepts. I will ask learners questions to review what they have learned, correct any misconceptions, and provide feedback and conclude the lesson with a short assessment or homework activity. The ICT tool that I've used for this lesson is YouTube educational videos to introduce and explain concept of fractions. The video uses colorful animation and real-life examples such as sharing pizza and cakes to help learners understand the meaning of fractions, the numerator and the denominator. After watching the video, we discussed what the learners have learned and completed practical activities to apply the concept. So using the YouTube videos makes the lesson more interactive, engaging, cater to visual and auditory learners to understand and help them to remember the content more effectively. Reflection on the SAMR model helped me understand how ICT can improve teaching and learning. I used YouTube videos instead of explaining fractions by myself. The videos contain animation and audio, which made the lesson more easier to understand. At the modification level, learners completed interacted online fractions activities and worked together. My role as a teacher, I introduced the lesson by showing a YouTube videos about fractions and explain the key concepts of the numerator and denominator. Then I'll ask questions before, during, and after video to check learners' understanding. Then I'll demonstrate examples using fractions, diagrams, guide learners through activities, provide support when needed, and give them feedback. So the learner's role for this, they have to actively watch the YouTube video, listen carefully, answer the teacher's questions, and participate in class discussion, and work individually and in groups to identify, compare, and represent fractions using diagrams or concrete objects. Reflection on effectiveness. The lesson was effective because learners actively participated and showed a better understanding of fractions through discussions, practical activities, and YouTube videos. So the use of ICT made the lesson more engaging and helped learners visualize concepts such as numerator and denominator. However, some learners required some additional support and some time to complete the activities. To ensure an inclusive learning environment, I used different methods to accommodate learners with diverse needs and abilities. I explained concepts using simple language and visual aids and a YouTube video to support visual and auditory learners.